name is North, and I've been making music as an indie artist for the last 7 years. But I've been making music as an instrumentalist and part of the band and all that good stuff for the last 20 years. So it's been a while. I'm only 27, but it started very young. And it sounds like this. And this. And this. And I have learned a lot in the last 7 years, and I want to try and condense it. So here's the last 7 years of being an artist, the things that I've learned. Now, we're gonna be no BS, so I'm gonna run through the list. There may not be a lot of graphics or all that YouTuber stuff, but I just wanted to be forthcoming and talk about the things that I've learned and the things that I've talked about and things that have happened on this channel. And number one is that you don't start to do merch too early. You want to get a good kind of representation of your audience, and you want to get good numbers, metrics, things like that before you start making merch. I made merch early. I made like some posters and some other little things, and it was hard to get rid of, to be quite honest. I was giving it out at shows and things like that, and there's something about the merch that I picked. Like, when it comes down to merch, there's a few things. Number one is the merch that you pick. Number two is your audience. And number three is how you sell it, how you advertise it. Are you advertising it through shows, through online, through both, through your channel, all that stuff. And I didn't really do all of that when I first started as a musician. So that's number one. For me, I don't think there's a certain number that kind of constitutes when you do merch. It just kind of depends on how loyal your fan base is. And you can tell that through Bandcamp or Spotify, how many people are listening, how many people are seeing your stuff, interaction on social media, things like that. Number two is to make connections with people that you like music wise, but don't force yourself into their circle. You want to meet people who are like-minded, who you find their music interesting, but you also want to be genuine. You want to be authentic. You don't want to like push like sub for sub, follow for follow. It just is too much. And I think that can be kind of obvious, but I think a lot of people start out that way, thinking that they have to type to every person they see that interacts with their music, or type to every musician that they listen to and say like, hey, listen to my music, hey, listen to my music. Like, it's very inauthentic, and when you start to get those messages, you start to feel that same way. So form genuine connections the way you would online, and you learn a lot talking to other people and finding groups, collectives, like-minded individuals that make the same kind of genre, but they don't have to be the same genre. But I think it helps a little bit if they are, because you have something to kind of relate the stories to and the people they meet and the record labels and all that stuff. So number three is not to jump into a record label deal too early without looking at contracts and looking at things. My grandfather was a music producer and a music marketer, and he met a lot of people. He looked at a lot of contracts. He had music lawyers, he had people around him. And one of the first things he told me when I started to make music was to read the contracts thoroughly and carefully. You don't want to sign a contract thinking that you did a good job or you got something right away and just sign it and not really look at the fine print, because a lot of times, a lot of artists, as we've heard before, get stuck in deals where they're not really making money, or they get an advance and then it becomes kind of like a loan and then they don't get it back. Or like the Live Nation deals, that is a big thing right now, where they don't get a lot of the money from those shows and Live Nation takes a lot of them just through certain deals and things like that. So you want to make sure that it's read. You want to get a professional there, because it might seem expensive up front, but it's better to have a professional look at it for a lower amount of money than losing out on a lot of money later if you're looking at contracts, deals, things like that. And make sure things are in writing, because a lot of times people kind of go off of verbal contracts or verbal things, and they're like, oh no, it's fine, like it was verbal, like I'm good, dude. And then you get to the point and people can be slimy or decide that they don't want to honor that anymore, and because it was in a verbal contract, you don't actually have any proof that that was the case. And so you could have people steal your music, you can have people do things like that, and you don't want that. So make sure you read those. Along the same vein of legality, you want to make sure that if you have a distributor, that they are able to claim your music in places so people are not stealing your music and using it as their own. You want to make sure that you're looking on Spotify, you're checking in, making sure that people aren't stealing your song, because a lot can happen with internet music, and one thing is that people steal songs, and it's kind of frustrating and annoying, but they'll upload it under their own name. So you want to be careful with giving out free free downloads unless you have like a distributor or someone who can claim the song for you and get it taken down, because a lot of times we end up in situations where people will steal that song and then take it and pretend like it's theirs. And I've actually been in that position before where someone copyright claimed my song early on, and I had to fight it and with YouTube and everything, and they copyright the sample and all this stuff, and like I'm like, no, I made the song originally, so, and I had the proof to do so. So it took a little bit, but I got it back. But you want to make sure that you keep an eye out for that, because it's very easy for people to steal your song, especially if you make free downloads available and things like that, unless you have some fail-safe to help you out. Another one is not to pigeonhole yourself and to experiment, because a lot of times when I first started, one of the things that I learned was that I pigeonholed myself. I thought like I had to make a certain genre or I had to make a certain type of music, and I emulated a lot of artists at the start, which can be good for learning. But in terms of like posting music, like I deleted a lot of songs and things because they didn't match my artist age and everything like that. So I wanted it to match. So I actually spent some time getting my own sound, experimenting, finding genre, and the people will find you. If you're working on your craft and you're doing it in a unique way that's genuine to you with your style and your flair and all that stuff, then people will find you. So you want to make sure that you just create what comes to mind and you learn techniques off of that. You don't necessarily have to emulate to be able to get better. A lot of times you can learn from tutorials or things on techniques to help you kind of get the sound that you want. So there might be a certain technique that serves as a filter, or how you mix your voice to be able to create that song. And so you'd rather look for that than how to make music like XYZ, which a lot of YouTubers and people make, because they can emulate because they're good at understanding the style and skill, but they don't quite get there. Another thing that I learned was about shows. So playing shows is really vital and crucial to have people find you in a different way. They may not have been looking for you, but they find you in those live shows, and crafting a good live show is really good. It's a good way to make music money. It's also a good way to find your audience. Don't underestimate the art of a free show. Like, I'm not saying free like taking advantage of, but I'm saying being able to record yourself playing a show, even if it's friends and family in a backyard or something like that, or a pool party or whatever. You have a basis and portfolio to be able to send to people when they want to see a link to your show, because a lot of times it's hard to get a show without playing a show. It's kind of like the loop of job experience. Oh, it's hard to get a job because I don't have experience, but it's hard to get experience because I don't have a job. It's hard to get a show when you haven't played live, but it's hard to play live when you haven't played a show, right? So you have to be able to play a show, and playing those practice shows, playing those free shows, stuff with your friends and family, showing that you have an audience, showing that you can have a recording that you can send to those people and be like, hey, I have a show, and make it professional, make it good. But an iPhone can take a really good video. You get something steady with a tripod, you show your mixes, you have recorded mixes on SoundCloud or whatever. You can record your live show like unplugged or whatever you did and put it up there. Even open mics and stuff, you can get those recorded too and be able to show that information as well. So that's a good way to be able to book a show if you haven't booked a show already. One of the last things I learned was the art of cold emails, especially for Spotify playlists or YouTube channels, places where people play music. I was sending emails to like Majestic Casual, Bitbird, all these people, and I'm like, hey, listen to my music, listen to my music, listen to my music, listen to my music, and it was a lot. So I learned how to make a more genuine email that showed my interest in why I liked them, because I liked all the places that I applied to, and I liked them all. I liked the music that they played, I liked the artists that they had, I liked all of that, and I liked the playlists, and I knew that it had big reach. And so I looked for things that had reach and things that I genuinely liked and things that fit my genre. And I started to send cold emails that weren't that great. And so I learned the art of a cold email. And when you do that, you talk about what you like about them, you show your music, you show how it aligns and why they should even look at your email. And from there, that's when you create a better cold email, because they don't know you. You know you, but you forget that other people don't. So, and they're probably not going to click on your link if they don't feel compelled to. So you want to compel people to click on that and work on that. Another thing you kind of want to do early is figure out your social media presence and your brand and experiment with that too. Because a lot of times with your social media, you feel like you have to present a certain way. And I think that some people feel that way, but you want to be genuine. You want people to like you. You want people to like your personality as an artist and also your music. So it's like they're investing in the version of you, that whole part of you, not just like your music and everything. So if you are truly a mysterious type of person, then be that way on socials. If you're more goofy and funny and stuff like that, be that way on socials and find platforms that work for you. There's so many of them, and so you have to experiment with the different ones and figure out what works. You can use Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, which Facebook still kind of has like some play on it. Like you can still do things on Facebook, like X or Instagram or whatever. So you want to make sure that you're utilizing those different avenues and having the most people find your music. So me personally, I find that a spread along all kind of socials works for me, because at first I was kind of focused on two, and I learned that the more I kind of spread across them all, like YouTube, Instagram, Threads, Snapchat, things like that, I actually find different people in those different places. Overall, those are the main things that I've learned. I think that there's even more to learn in many different avenues and many different places, but those are the things and mistakes that I made early that I've learned from now and actually have kind of tweaked and changed. And it's super exciting to be able to share that with you. So hopefully it wasn't too long, but until then, I'll see you tomorrow.